The first time I saw the word solstice, it was on a calendar. I was so young that I didn't even know how to say the word, let alone understand what it meant. You see, my father's the type who enjoys having calendars hanging around the house. And when I say not just one calendar, we had a lot of calendars. There was a calendar in the kitchen by the phone. There was a calendar in the family room by the phone. There was a calendar hanging on the back of both bathroom doors. There was mid-sized calendars on the nightstands by each bed. And we also had magnet calendars on the fridges. We also had those little tiny little calendars in the cars. So there was really no reason why you would not know what day it is, because there was always a calendar within reach and sight of you. And why did my dad have so many calendars, though? He was a mailman. And so during his routes, he had a lot of businesses. And this is the time of year when they give out calendars as promos. And he was happy to take the calendars. He couldn't say no. It was a free calendar. And so we had calendars everywhere and a surplus of calendars, because if they were giving them to him, he was going to take them. And so what we would do with the extras is we would get them ready to hand them out to family and friends. And we would put down people's birthdays, anniversaries, special occasions that year that are coming up. And guess who got to help him when he was really young? This guy right here. So there I was, helping him fill out all the calendars. And since December was my birthday month, it's on the 7th, I made sure to take my time filling out that month. It became the month I studied the most. Of course, I'd stop to look at how many holidays and celebrations my birthday had to compete with. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year's Eve, and so many more. And each year between those holidays and celebrations listed, I saw the word solstice. But I was still unsure what it truly meant. Later in life, I would find out more. And while I found out more about solstice during my spiritual explorations, I need to offer that studying and experiencing are vastly different. For you see, I've been navigating an arduous journey of balancing light and darkness in my own recent life. About a year and a half ago, I was going through some medical stuff with my skin. And my doctor couldn't send me to a dermatologist. The dermatologist did some tests, had to come back for some more tests, get some lab results taken, and it came back that I had skin cancer. And I went into a spiral because I was like, I'm too young to have skin cancer. What do you mean I have skin cancer? But I was being taken care of. My family was checking in on me. I had people who were calling me, wanting to make sure, have lunch with me, have a meal with me. I was really being cared for at a time when I was avoiding the sun. So much so that I would take the night shifts at work. I was at a hospital at the time, and so I was happy to take the night shifts from people. I would sleep during the day, and I would find ways to do everything when the sun was out. I'd go to the gym before the sunrise. I'd go out to do my errands after sunset. I was an avid avoider of vitamin D in those moments. But I wasn't afraid of the dark. I embraced the dark. It welcomed me at a time when I was struggling with something that I didn't know what to do about. And as I prepped for my Mohs surgery, my dad gave me a calendar for all my appointments so I could keep track of everything and see it right in front of my face on the door. And as I was filling out the calendar, I would notice when the full moon cycle was coming. And I thought, oh, how beautiful to embrace the moonlight right now when I'm avoiding every other light. And so what I would do is for those nights of the full moon, I called it bathing in moonlight, kind of like, in my swimsuit wear, and I would go out and lay in the moonlight. And I would just lay there and let the magic of the earth-centered spiritual practice come to me, because it was a light that I was embracing so much of in those moments. And during those months when I was spiraling, and I took the time to process what was happening, I realized I couldn't stay in the darkness. I didn't want to stay in the darkness forever. I had a lot of life to live. I had a lot of love to give. And I had a lot of my own inner light I needed to show the world. So, you've probably seen me if you've ever seen me outside. I usually always have an umbrella with me. It's one of my I'm not going to pop it all the way, but I'll pop it a little bit. It's one of my sun umbrellas. It's a special umbrella that protects me from UV rays. I brought the green one today because you got to go with solstice colors and holiday colors. But I have a bunch of colors. You've probably seen my yellow one. I have a terracotta one as well. I figured if I'm going to use an umbrella, it's going to match my outfits. And I'm not very much a hat person because it messes up my hair, so umbrellas was what I went with. This was a recent time in my life when I had studied, when what I had studied paled in comparison to the lived experience. Through this, I was able to embrace the spiritual meaning of the solstice so deeply. And what do I mean by spiritual meaning? These are the 4 lessons that I learned that I want to share with you. Number 1, valuing darkness. Valuing darkness invites us to reconsider what we so often fear or resist. Darkness is not merely the absence of light, nor a symbol of evil or failure, but a sacred and necessary space. It is the space of rest and after effort, of quiet before understanding emerges, like rich soil that holds seeds unseen or the protective safety of the womb. Darkness nurtures what is still becoming. In honoring darkness, we learn patience, trust, and reverence for processes that unfold beyond our immediate vision. Number 2, interdependence. Interdependence reminds us that light and dark are not opposing forces locked in struggle, but partners in a dynamic relationship. Each defines and gives meaning to the other. Without darkness, light would lose its brilliance. Without light, darkness would lack direction and contrast. Together, they shape the fullness of our lived experience, growth and grief, clarity and mystery, beginnings and endings. Wholeness arises not from choosing one over the other, but from recognizing their mutual reliance. Number 3, balance. Balance calls us to attend to the rhythms of life rather than striving for constant brightness or unbroken progress. There are seasons for action and seasons for rest, times of joy and times of sorrow, moments of hope and moments of despair. Honoring balance means allowing ourselves to inhabit these realities without judgment, trusting that each has something to teach us. Harmony emerges not from avoiding difficulty, but from holding opposing experiences together with compassion and care. And 4th, inner light and action. Inner light and action turn these reflections outward into the world. Each person carries within them a unique spark of conscience, creativity, love, and courage. When we honor that inner light, we are called to let it shine through acts of justice, kindness, and solidarity. Even in the deepest darkness, a single spark can orient us, offer warmth, and invite others to tend their own light. In this way, personal illumination becomes collective hope, and quiet faith becomes transformative action. Together, these truths invite us to live more gently and more bravely, to trust the darkness, honor the light, and journey the path between them with intention and love. I've shared some of the darkness I have carried, so now I invite you to reflect internally. What darkness are you holding in this moment? Take a moment. What darkness are you holding? Maybe it's something medical, like I shared. Perhaps it is a heavy grief or a quiet depression you carry within. Maybe it is the stress of food insecurity or the constant worry of rent and bills piling up. It could be an addiction you are struggling with, or perhaps it is something more challenging to name, an unease, a sense of being off. Often, when we encounter darkness in our own lives, we have been taught to interpret it as something wrong, something shameful or dangerous. We learn, sometimes without words, that struggle should be hidden, that grief should be managed quietly, that doubt or despair are signs of failure rather than part of being human. Because we rarely make space to speak openly about these experiences, darkness becomes isolating. What is unspoken begins to feel unspeakable. This teaching is reinforced by the broader culture we inhabit. From a young age, many of us are surrounded by messages that equate light with goodness, purity, safety, and success, while darkness is framed as threatening, immoral, or broken. These metaphors shape not only how one understands our inner lives, but also how we relate to one another. Over time, they seep into one's assumptions so deeply that many stop noticing them. And this is not merely symbolic. These associations have real and harmful consequences. When light is constantly coded as good and darkness is bad, those values can be projected onto human bodies themselves. Racism is one of the most devastating places where this shows up, where worth, safety, and belonging are unjustly judged based on skin tone. What begins as a metaphor becomes structure, and what starts as a story becomes systems of harm. For Unitarian Universalists, naming this connection matters. Our faith calls us to examine the stories we inherit and ask whom they serve and whom they harm. When we challenge the idea that darkness is inherently bad, we are not only making space for our own grief, rest, and complexity, we are also resisting a worldview that has justified exclusion and violence. In reclaiming darkness as a place of depth, possibility, and transformation, we take a step toward healing within ourselves and within our shared life. This work asks us to be brave, to sit with discomfort, to unlearn that many of us have been taught, and to imagine a more spacious way of being human. One where all of who we are and all of who our neighbors are can belong. Thankfully, the ancient wisdom of solstice reminds us that its teachings remain alive. We are called to value darkness, recognize our interdependence, tend to the balance of our lives, and carry our inner light into the work of love and justice. The world is vast, beloveds, yet here at UUCP, we are drawn together. One of the gifts I cherish most in our worship is the sharing of joys and sorrows as a sacred practice that helps us hold both light and darkness within this community. Our shared, loving container is wide enough to hold it all. It always has been, and it always will be. In closing, I offer this blessing of mine to each of you. On this turning of the year, we pause at the meeting place of light and darkness. We give thanks for light, for clarity, warmth, courage, and hope. We honor the darkness for rest, mystery, renewal, and the fertile ground where new life quietly begins. May we learn to live in balance, embracing both joy and sorrow, striving and rest, knowing each has its season and its wisdom. May we tend the small lights within us, trusting that even the gentlest glow can guide us through long nights. And as the light slowly returns, may we carry forward compassion, justice, and love, becoming light for one another in a world that longs for wholeness. Blessed be this turning, and blessed be all who journey this path of balancing light and darkness. Let it be so.